my friends. Welcome to another episode of Brough Guitars Review. I know it has been a minute. Not going to give you a life date update, but not much has really happened except for the fact that, I've just been busy lifing, man. So we're still continuing to try, but let's go ahead and cut the crap. Let's get to what's important here. Today, as you've already clicked on this video, so you know where I'm going with this, we're going to talk about the man, the myth, the legend, the modern day Viking Thor on guitar, Mr. Zachary Philip Wylde, better known as Zakk Wylde. But welcome. Very exciting today because Zakk Wylde is one of my all-time favorite guitarists. I even have a autographed by this man right here. Too lazy to get the phone over there for you to see it, but it's a really awesome looking photo. But Zakk Wylde, to me, is probably one of the more influential guitarists, obviously for you watching too, because you obviously clicked on this video. But the man needs his flowers. The guy is a crazy, absolute, phenomenal guitarist. He's known for his extremely fast licks, his chicken picking style, heavy influence by a lot of country players, believe it or not. And also his harmonics, his squealies. I mean, the dude's phenomenal. Right? So I think we can all agree there. Now, who is Zakk Wylde? What is he mostly known for? From as far as previous bands, he's mostly known for obviously playing with the Prince of Darkness himself, Mr. Ozzy Osbourne. He's also known for playing in his own band, Black Label Society. And then, obviously, he did the reunion tour with Pantera to pay homage to his, one of his best friends, Dimebag Darrell, rest in peace. And then also now plays in the tribute band, I think they call it Zakk Sabbath, so nice little play on words there. But either way, welcome. Let's go ahead and dive into this. Now, Zakk Wylde had a lot of success at a very young age. He started playing with Ozzy when I think he was about 19 years old in the late 80s. So he had played for Oz off and on throughout the years. And then obviously went on to do, Black Label and so on and so on and so on. Okay, but can you imagine being a professional guitarist at age 19 years old? How awesome would that be? And I know there's 4-year-olds now that if you look up on YouTube that play guitar far better than myself, including probably 99.9% of the world. It's crazy now. I wish technology was around way back when before, dial-up and you had to wait, 10 years for a video to upload for you to finally learn how to play something. Neither here or there. But if you can relate, kudos to you for sticking around this long playing guitar. Now, Zakk Wylde is still very much alive today. He was born in 1967. He still plays around. He comes out here to Vegas. He plays like the Broken Bowl a lot and this and that, yada, 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 right? But another place you may not be familiar where you may have seen him before, ironically, is in a movie, actually. I don't know if you guys recall the movie Rockstar that had Mark Wahlberg in it. I think it came out in like the early 2000s or something like that. But he was the long-haired, clean-shaved, looking just massive dude that was the lead guitarist. And they actually did on the soundtrack album, like he played on all of those songs, and it's got Zakk Wylde all over it. So definitely give that movie a watch, but if you're not familiar, it looks something like this. Obviously, what brought you all here was this guitar, okay? So this guitar here is the Zakk Wylde Epiphone Les Paul version, okay? Or is it? We're going to touch on that. So this guitar, I remember seeing this, I think it was at a Guitar Center or a secondhand pawn shop, something like that. And I remember seeing the graphic on this Les Paul, and I was like, what the hell is that? I'm like, that's kind of cool looking, right? And then later, I think I saw Zakk Wylde, I want to say he was playing this, and it was with Slash, and they were playing like their version of like Voodoo Child or something like that. And I don't know if that was for, NAMM or something like that, but I was just like, holy shit. I was like, okay, clearly that's where this guitar came from. Look at this guy go, right? Anybody standing in the arena with Slash and holding his own, I was just like, my God. So that's really where it kind of started for me as far as Zakk Wylde. And like I said, I'm a huge fan of like graphic design guitars, guitars that look a little different. You know, you don't really see any Les Pauls with EMGs in it, much less this cool looking design. I mean, Gibson's definitely stepped out of their comfort zone as of, you know, the last, I don't know, 8 to 10 years. Neither here or there. But this guitar I was a huge fan of, had to have. This is probably the, I don't know, the second or third time that I've owned it. I wish I would have kept the ones previously. This will be a forever guitar by default, to be honest. Again, we will touch on that here in a second. But, you know, obviously, you know, this guitar exists, you know, as the original Gibson Les Paul. We have the Epiphone version, which is more affordable. I think now he also has Wylde Audio, which is, you know, his own brand that has, you know, similar body style and obviously with the paint job. But, you know, let's all agree that, you know, the coolest guitars in the world are the ones that have a story. And this one definitely has a story. So way back when, you know, Zakk was giving guitar lessons. And I believe he was giving lessons to a friend known as Seth Quinn, whoever the hell that is. But it was obviously one of Zakk Wylde's friends. And Seth happened to bring a, you know, kind of like off-white cream Gibson Les Paul. And it happened to have EMGs in it. And so he, you know, Zakk's giving him lessons in this and that. And then I guess he either asked if he wanted to try to play as Les Paul or he just played it throughout the lesson. I'm not exactly sure, but in some shape or form, Zakk played the guitar, and in that moment, he had it plugged into his little Marshall, and he was like, "My God, that's how a guitar is supposed to sound." And he was such a huge fan of the guitar and wanted the guitar so bad that you know, he told his buddy, he's like, "Man, I have to have this guitar." And so, with that being said, I guess, you know, either Zakk was either sponsored by Gibson at the time or he knew someone in Gibson, something along those lines, where basically Seth was like, "Hey, you know what, I'll trade you this guitar if you can get me, you know, a custom double neck from Gibson made for me." And, you know, Zakk was like, "Say no more." And so he got him a double neck, and then next thing you know, now Zakk's got this off-white Les Paul. Now, again, this is before the Bullseye ordeal here, okay? So now Zakk's got the guitar, he's loving it, and then I believe how things transpire from that point is he's, you know, he later starts to play with Oz, and then because Randy Rhoads obviously was, you know, the big head honcho, and Jakey Lee and all them for Ozzy were, you know, huge guitars, but Randy Rhoads specifically also had a Les Paul that he was known for, and it was an off-white Les Paul, ironically playing with Ozzy Osbourne. So Zakk was like, "Damn it, that's one of my guitar gods," so that's another reason why he loved an off-white Les Paul, but he was like, you know, I want it to look different, I want it to be identifiable, you know, to have its own thing. So he was a big fan of the movie, which had a pattern, I guess, featured on it like Vertigo. So it was kind of like I think it was like a spiral, you know, like if you're getting like hypnotized or something like that. And so he essentially said that he wanted, you know, that paint job on there, and that looks something like this. Zakk sits there and he tells his friend's, I guess, willing to paint the guitar, and he's going to do a photo shoot. And so I guess he tells his buddies, like, "Hey, man, I want the Vertigo design on my Les Paul." And so I guess, you know, his buddy shows up to the photo shoot. He's got the guitar in hand. You know, he gives it to Zakk, and it looks like this. It looks like a, you know, a Bullseye. And Zack's like, "You know, what the hell is this? I told you I wanted the Vertigo." And he's like, you know, it is what it is. And so Zakk was like, "Okay, well, I guess I'm going to do this photo shoot." So it's kind of ironic how that story, you know, kind of ended up like the black and yellow guitar, kind of like for Eddie, slightly different, but not to relate, you know, relate everything to Van Halen, but I mean, good God, look, okay? But again, it's just kind of funny how that all works out. So obviously now this is synonymous with Zakk Wylde, you know what I mean? You know, you see a Bullseye anything and you think Zakk Wylde. So continuing on with the cool story of this guitar, Zakk gave this guitar a nickname. It's known as the Grail, or for instance, the Holy Grail. So he calls this guitar the Grail for short. And so he was, I want to say it was like sometime in the 2000s or whatever, he was playing with Black Label, and they just got done with the show. They pack up the guitar in case, this and that. Roadies put it on a truck. So they take off. They start traveling to their next destination. I guess, somehow the guitar came out of the truck or, the car, whatever it was in at the time. I guess it fell out, right? And so some bystander just happened to, I guess, stop or find it or whatever, picked it up, and then held on to it for God knows how long. And then they go and they sell it at a pawn shop, right? So then as they sell it off to a pawn shop, it gets purchased by another person. So a customer comes in, picks up this guitar. So they start, fiddling with it, taking it apart, and they happen to look at the pickups, and I guess on, the back of the pickups, they had like ZW on it or something along those lines, some type of insignia that made him think like, wait a minute, I know Zakk Wylde has a Bullseye guitar, and, why would it say ZW on there? That's kind of ironic. There's only one Les Paul really that's famous out there that's going to have those initials on this and that, whatever. So he reaches out to, I guess, somebody in, Zakk's inner circle or his agent, something, whatever, shoots him email, yada, yada, says like, hey, I came across this guitar, like I saw the initials, I think it might be yours. Oddly enough, Zakk's like, no, 100% that's mine. So I guess they do like a meet and greet. Guy brings a guitar, gives it back to Zakk. And then Zakk, just for being the guy that he is, I guess he was just like, hey, you know what, man, it doesn't feel right, for me to take this guitar back without giving you something in return. I really appreciate it. Thank you, yada, yada. And then ended up giving him, the Gibson custom shop version of Zakk's Bullseye guitar and gave him that in exchange. I don't know if he signed it or not. I don't know all the details behind that. That's just, again, from research that I've done. But again, cool little story about how this guitar, kind of came full circle back to him, no different than Joe Perry's, Les Paul that Slash had gotten and then ended up giving it back to him for like a birthday gift. So it's kind of cool how those guitars returned back to their original owners. Zakk still got the guitar to this day. I don't know if it's quite retired yet or not. It seems like a lot of the shows he's really endorsing and promoting his Wylde audio stuff. But I guarantee you that this is still very much in the forefront of him playing this a lot. But again, really, really cool story on the guitar. Now, like I said earlier, you have the Gibson. Well, first you got the original, which was, like I said, a Gibson Les Paul that happened to be painted like this. Then you have the Gibson custom shop versions. Then you have the Epiphone Bullseye versions. And then you have the Wylde audio versions. And then you also have, unfortunately, counterfeit or replicas, counterfeit guitars. Now, when I purchased this guitar, I didn't happen to know that this is the most counterfeited guitar of all time. It really is. And damn, are they getting good. But for those of you that happen to be aware and know what you're looking for, you would have maybe spotted some things already right off the bat. Now, I don't say this to sit there and say that this guitar is a total living piece of shit. That's not the case at all. It's got some things I like about it. It's got some things that I don't. But, I will say that, these are just a few of the things that I kind of want to make you guys aware of. That way you know what to look for when you have any purchasing these things off of eBay, Reverb, or, secondhand or whatever else. If it's not legitimately from like, a Guitar Center or Sweetwater or, something like that. If it's not coming straight from one of those or, the actual manufacturer, well, it's Wylde Audio, whatever, more than likely you're going to run that risk of there being that potential that it is in fact a counterfeit. Now, I'm about 99% sure that this is a counterfeit, and I'll tell you a couple of the reasons as to why. First and foremost, one of the dead giveaways is that it has this poker chip on it, okay? Now, the Epiphone versions, the real ones, they ain't going to have that because Zakk didn't have one on his. I left it there just to show you guys an example. I'll probably take it off at some point in time. Now, the EMG pickups that we have here, they are supposed to be two different colors where it's the brand of the EMG is. This one's gold and this one's silver. I don't remember if it's necessarily one being on the top, one being on the bottom, whichever color it is, gold or silver. Neither here or there. You can do that research yourself. But if they're both the same color, it's probably a dead giveaway too that it's also a fake. Another thing is these knobs here, if they're not more, see how they're more vertical and they go off to the side? They're supposed to be a little bit more up, like an actual Les Paul, more straight. That's kind of like more of a subtle, you got to know more so what you're looking for there. It's, your eyes can play tricks on you, this and that, especially because the knobs are black and it blends in with the striping and this and that. So that does make it a little bit harder. Couple other giveaways is the Epiphone logo there, something about, the fonts and either they're off center or how the end drags down like that, this and that. There's some great videos out there about how they break this down. Again, I'm just giving you synopsis, guys. Another dead giveaway that a lot of people would just say is just completely obvious is the Zakk Wylde little stance there guy, how either he's too far over to the tuner like that, or how many stripes are actually on the guitar where you can actually count them. Also, this branding here, I don't believe it's supposed to be here at all. Also, this neck is so glossy. It's about as glossy as if you went to a P. Diddy party. Haven't been to one of those yet, but good God. I mean, look at the shine. That's baby oil written all over it, okay? Now back to reality. Also, sometimes they'll misspell, Zakk Wylde here or, Les Paul or whatever. Also, another dead giveaway is the serial number there. Now, on the other ones, I don't believe there's supposed to be two big letters and then the rest are smaller, which happens to be a giveaway. But Epiphone did make guitars with that kind of serial number, I think, again, correct me if I'm wrong, in China at one point in time. I think it was Qingdao, China, or something like that. I don't know how to pronounce it, or if I just totally butchered it. Do your own research. But again, that's another kind of dead giveaway. And binding. Apparently the binding is really, really thick. And on the neck, on the headstock there, it takes up like half of the headstock. Also, the scarf joint, good God. You know what I mean? And again, I don't say these things to say that this thing is a total piece of shit. It's not. But again, I just wanted to touch base on it and let you guys know that I'm almost 100% certain that this is a fake. Now, I will say China's come a long way, and I'm not by any means sitting there saying, like, you should go buy counterfeit guitars. I'm not saying that at all. I will say that you only live once, and whatever's within your budget's within your budget. You got to do what you got to do. But at the end of the day, I'd rather see the proceeds go to the artist that kind of made it happen. But again, everybody rips off everybody. So do what you got to do, right? But again, we just wanted to touch on that. I had owned this guitar as an actual Epiphone at one point in time. And I remember the neck on that thing being freaking gigantic. And the neck on this definitely feels a lot different. It's kind of like a D kind of profile or whatever. But, the other one I remember was essentially like holding a damn baseball bat. I remember it was like super thick. And that was probably the reason why I really got rid of it. I'm not a huge fan of gigantic necks. I've come to love them more now and appreciate them for what they are. But back then I was like, oh my God, nah, I can't do this. And that was the main reason why I got rid of that one. Like I said, this one I could never get rid of because I'm pretty sure it's counterfeit and that's illegal. So we ain't going to do that. We're stuck with it. It is what it is. I might change out some of the parts because the pickups got short out in the pots and they definitely move and this and that. And there is no battery compartment for the EMGs. And now they do have active and inactive EMGs. But if you got the Epiphone version, it's going to have the battery pack, right here in the cavity or down here. Maybe, I think it's in the cavity here at the top. Actually in the plastic. But, yeah, it's going to be I think an EMG 81, 85, something like that. I mean, essentially, look like this, minus the poker chip there. The neck itself is probably going to be more like closer to ebony than more like this dark, kind of like rosewood almost. We'll have, I believe, still Grover tuners on it for the Epiphone version. But I just remember it was a great guitar. It was a great sounding guitar. It was the first guitar I had with EMGs in it, and the EMGs being active, it really it was very articulate. You were able to hear all the notes. They didn't really just blend in together, even with a lot of gain, because you had the battery really pushing them. So, you know, that's kind of the give and take as far as the EMGs, because of the output. They're typically a higher output, so everything is always going to kind of sound like it's the same volume. But at the end of the day, the majority of the tones in your hands anyway. It's about how you articulate your picking and this and that. But that's kind of I would say more so the bad rap on EMGs. But again, we're talking something small, guys, very minute. EMGs are great pickups. But you have the, like I said, the Epiphone version. Just be careful, out there with, what you're looking for. Do your research. Definitely ask questions. I'm no professional by any means, guys. But again, I'm not perfect either. I didn't do my due diligence when I bought this guitar. Now, did I spend thousands of dollars on it? Hell no. I'm probably out, I'd say $500, and I don't know if the person that sold it to me even knew either. But bad on me for not really doing my due diligence and checking it out. But again, you have the actual Gibson Custom Shop Les Paul version if you want to sell your left nut for that. You got the Wylde Audio ones, which is probably more of like, I think it's more of like a pointy point here just for copyright reasons. Yeah, guys, I mean, I would highly recommend the Epiphone version. It's still very much affordable. You can get it now, I think, for like anywhere between like $800 to like $1,200. I think $1,200 is a little much. I think if you're like that 8 to 9 range, considering a lot of them I think are discontinued now. But they're great guitars. Epiphone does put out really good product. Again, make sure you get the real ones. Otherwise, you get this subpar, quality stuff. All the audio you've heard up to this point is this guitar minus the acoustic playing. So anyway, guys, a little bit of a shorter video for you today. I just wanted to be able to get one in there, be open and honest about some mistakes that I've made, but the guitar does play pretty well overall. If you put a little love and care, you change out the electronics here and there, this guitar could really be a beast. So I might do that over time. Right now I got some other guitar projects I'm kind of working on, some things I'm trying to get up to par that we'll talk about as soon as I'm able to devote a little bit more time to getting those either back and or working on them myself. I just wanted to take a quick second too, just to thank you guys, for the support, all the comments. I've been getting messages, a lot of Facebook requests. I'm an open book, guys. Feel free to contact me. I try to get back to you as timely as I can. I really appreciate your passion, your support, and, just even giving a shit to watch this. Like I said, I'm just doing this out of my free time because I enjoy talking guitar and I like watching guitar videos myself. I'm always on YouTube watching, different videos and this and that. So, the last video I had was the George Lynch guitar. Go back, take a look at that if you want, or any of my other videos. Really had a lot of fun doing that one. But I got a lot of feedback, a lot of very passionate George Lynch fans out there. Wow. Definitely got a lot of messages on that one. But again, thank you guys so much for the support. Really appreciate you watching. And again, until next time, do whatever it is you do. I'm out. Peace.